marks and scars. I'll brush you up just like the dust upon my shoulder. I have a hunch of who you are. Believe it or not, I got the strength to blow you over. I'm a hurricane, I'm bringing thunder and rain. I'm a hurricane if you get in my way. I'm a hurricane, always on top of my game. I'm a hurricane, I'm trying to get in my way. Hurricane, I'm bringing thunder and rain. I'm a hurricane if you get in my way. I'm a hurricane, always on top of my game. I'm a hurricane, I'm trying to get in my way. I'm a hurricane, I'm bringing thunder and rain. I'm a hurricane if you get in my way. I'm a hurricane, always on top of my game. I'm a hurricane, I'm trying to get in my way. Hurricane, I'm bringing thunder and rain. I'm a hurricane if you get in my way. I'm a hurricane, always on top of my game. I'm a hurricane, I'm trying to get in my way. When I tell you, know you, throw a tantrum, you're never satisfied with what you have. Every day's an off day if you don't get your way. Scream more, more, more until your throat gets sore. Jump on the direct express, let's make it right. Don't be a spoiled baby, get out tonight. Oh, get out tonight. Oh yeah, you know what I want. Never pants in any weather, the world revolves around you. Greedy and a bit needy, that's what I like about you. Your perky, pouting lips, oh, put your love on me.
Today is the beginning of the end and the start of a new beginning. Time has come to refine yourself and let go of the demons in your head that have held you in captivity for so long. It's time to flip the page and prove them wrong. It's time for rebirth. Yeah, time's up to say goodbye to all the haters, doubters, and non-believers trying to bring you down. In the blink of an eye, you'll realize that there's so much more to the book than the page you were stuck on. Finally, you will be free to live a life you love living instead of the life you think other people want you to live. Remember, you're the highest authority when it comes to knowing what you want and what you love. So stop trading yourself for the approval from others. Ladies and gentlemen, we're
Target acquired.
Eagle 1, first strike. You have permission to engage the target.
Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
What's up, guys? How is everyone today? It's a brave new day. Still in the apartment in New Jersey. Going to be here at least another, at least one more day. Well, all of today. Should fly out tomorrow. We'll find out. Should be a good time, and we'll get to it. So, yeah. How's everyone out there today? As we come into to week 2 post-election, it's very interesting. I was watching a thing with Destiny this morning. What are we having now? Get more camera issues. I think it is this specific cable. Unfortunately, I didn't bring a backup cable with me, so we're just going to have to deal with it the way it is. I don't have anything else I can do. We'll see. It could be the cable. It could just be timing out, or not have enough bandwidth. I'll have to think of something else. But the next time I come up here to stream out of here, I see some people in the chat today. It looks good so far. We've got TR Finley, who was first in the chat. OPC Don is in the chat. My buddy Kevin is in the chat. We've got Smoking Spaceman. We've got Damien, our parkour guy, Anson Knowles, and Angel Berber so far in the chat. Hopefully, we'll get some more guys wandering through. I know Glenn did a stream earlier. It looked awesome. The few minutes of it I got to watch. I haven't been very busy this morning, so not a lot going on. Welcome, Imperious. I see you out there, and good times all around. So let me turn my mic up. There we go. And hopefully we can have a great show today. As I was saying just a few minutes ago, Destiny was on a channel called Jen, and and Destiny's basically still making excuses for why his side lost, right? And now he's saying that because most of the all of the conservative journalism backed Trump, then nobody was able to stand up to Trump, and therefore basically you either complied or you were ruined. I don't know that that's true. There were a lot of people who were speaking out against Trump that were not ruined, and but at any rate, it is what it is. So it's hard to say how it would have gone otherwise. And I mean, he used Rittenhauser as an example, where Rittenhauser said that he was considering voting libertarian, and he sort of got in Destiny's eyes got bullied into making the switch back to Trump. But the reality is that Rittenhauser, I don't think thought through and he never said that he was going to vote libertarian, as near as I can recall. I could be wrong. Maybe I didn't read every single line of everything, but it seemed like what Rittenhauser really said was, guys, this is dumb. And I'm thinking about going third party because I have some issues with Trump's personality. And then the very correct point was made that the third party candidate is a serious liability. He's not a good person. Why would you vote for that guy? So I honestly don't know that Rittenhauser was bullied so much as he was educated. I didn't see the entire Reddit X extravaganza, and I don't really care. Anson Knowles, Liz and Dick Cheney, and all the never Trump Republicans lined up against Trump. That's true. Anson Knowles is correct. Destiny is all cope. And Smoking Spaceman is very accurate. The copium trademark epidemic has begun, and they are smoking and drinking all the copium. It's in stock everywhere, guys. It is crazy. Panchuchin, good to see you in here. Welcome, Anson and Smoking Spaceman. Hopefully we're going to have a good show today. Again, I'm kind of roughing it out here. I didn't actually bring all of the equipment that I probably should have. Unfortunately, just the way it worked out, I trimmed down a little bit too much. You know, it's a learning process when you're traveling with gear, so I'll figure it out. Destiny is really coping, but Destiny's not the only one. You know, he's got Pisco out there. Pisco is nothing but cope right now. It's the side that does the most bullying. Basically, yeah, Damien Wright tries to bully people into voting for Kamala, blames people for being bullied into voting for Trump. Yeah, that's correct. I mean, basically, the side that actually does the bullying is now whining that people were bullied into supporting Trump that wouldn't ordinarily support him. I don't know that that's true. I think Joe Rogan's a grown-ass man and isn't afraid of anybody. So nobody bullies Joe Rogan, right? I mean, that's not in the realm of reality, guys. It really isn't. So there's that. And I guess it's very difficult for me to prep for these streams. I've been really busy with a bunch of other stuff. I actually had a busy morning taking care of some other things as well. So I'm not 100% fantastically prepared as I should be. But we'll muddle through it. We'll make it work. Panchuchin, yeah, the identity politics right now is crazy, and they're really making it about gender and about how the right, in theory, is not willing to I guess deal with gender or whatever they're really trying to make it about gender and how the gender issues is what really caused the Republicans to have this. And it is Angel Berber. It is really quite pathetic. Absolutely. It is. So, Imperious, I actually heard you on Glenn's show with the lady about the lady concerning abortion, and I thought you did very well. I thought that you were actually very well spoken for the most part, and maybe the least condescending I've seen you in a while. So that was good, Imperious. I appreciate you toning it down. So that kind of worked out. My wife and I had an interesting conversation last night as we were driving back from being out most of the day, and it's very interesting how and we'll get into it. I want to get into it on a nighttime show, but basically how corporately in the corporate world where people think that they're going to make all this money and do all these great things, oftentimes that just doesn't happen, or it does happen that way, but it doesn't, because they're poor planning. It doesn't work the way they want it to. Guys, my camera is freaking out today. I've got clouds rolling by and I didn't close the blinds, and so as the outside light changes or shadow changes, the camera reacts. I do apologize. This is very unprofessional of me, but it is what it is. And it's also trying to focus on that back wall and all of this stuff there, but that's okay. So the Yeah. Uh, I also I've seen, I've been, I've just been kind of wandering around YouTube the last couple of days. Glenn's had some banging those guys. He has really, really been, it's been lit with the way that he has actually been able to um, have really, really good discussions um, that seem to really, transit a couple of different spheres, and it. I really liked the one about abortion. That was good. I didn't get to see the one last night, this morning. I just didn't have time. I want to, I will. I'll go back and watch as much of it as I can. It's interesting that the amount of leftists that are just losing their minds right now is crazy, and it is concerning to some degree for what's going to happen over the next 8 weeks. So we'll see what happens, but it's going to be very interesting. The thing that you don't hear, the thing you don't hear is how vocal they are how the teeth aren't really there, right? Like I went to a protest the other day. There was barely anybody there. I've been out and about. Nobody's wearing. I mean, dude, there was a guy selling Trump 2024 stuff when I went down, right down from 1PP yesterday as I drove over to the. Well, I'm not going to tell you where I drove, but through New York City. So Trump should make Imperius his attorney general. No, I don't think so. They do refuse to look at themselves, Panchuchin. And that's it's an interesting thing, and it's interesting why, it's like, look, the public has spoken. They don't want the abortion as the main issue. They don't want gender studies as a major issue. They want the economics. They want they want reality, and for whatever reason, the Democrats are really stuck on not even contemplating reality, right? Am I wrong in that? I don't feel like I am, but it just really seems like that they refuse to look at the actual issues, and all they're really doing is talking about issues that they want to talk about, but nobody else does. It's we should be talking about why the Democrats are still pushing women to not get married until later in life, which is a crazy thing. In China they have a term for it. It's called leftover women. I can't pronounce the Chinese words, but it's that's what they're called. And this won't be a long stream today, guys. You can hear the New York buzzards out there, the sirens for the police or whatever. This won't be a terribly long stream today, guys. I've really got to. I got so much going on, and we used to call them spinsters, Panchuchin. There's a bunch of words for it here. Yeah, Imperius, you're right. You're right. Guys, I'm not even going to do a long monologue today. If Anson or somebody wants to come up and shoot the breeze, that'll be cool. I've been really trying to. I've really just been out of it. I've been trying to catch up, but it's just really difficult to. First of all, follow everything, man. It's crazy how much stuff is going on out there. You've got protests here and there, which are relatively small and toothless. And is anybody else besides me surprised at that? You would think with all the passion that these guys are putting into basically everything, that their protests would be massive again, right? But even here in a bastion of liberalism, the protests are actually really small. You know, my wife actually suggested that, Imperious. She did actually suggest that. Welcome, Michigan Christian. How are you? How's everything going? Yeah, they are shocked. I think they are really shocked. I think that they didn't think that there was any way Trump was going to win. I think that that's it's just got them all kinds of messed up. So I think that's true. Now I don't physically assault people, Imperious, unless I have to. Yeah, I'm not only going to be here another. I'm not going to be here very much longer. Get off my lawn. That's right. Get off my lawn. Dang hippies. What's up, Ghost? How are you doing, buddy? I'm getting kind of a slow start to the day. I'm really, this camera issue is kind of bugging me. I may have to switch lenses and lock the focus out if this continues, because this is really bugging me. Well, this is interesting. I had not heard this. Her campaign's $20 million in debt. Well, I thought she had all the good donors. Where's Soros when you need him, right? An anti-hippie machine. I got to look that up. That sounds cool. Anti-hippie machine. Yeah. Let's see here. Die, hippie. Die. That's funny. I like it. I like it. That's a good one. That's pretty damn funny right there, Imperious. You're excited about the build up to the inauguration. Other delegates from here going to DC for it. Thinking about doing that myself, but it might not logistically be possible. Well, if you do make it, that's awesome. Hey, did you guys? Where do you guys stand? What are you guys thinking about the sentencing next week? Do you guys have any thoughts on that? I believe it's next week. They raised over $1 billion and she was paying for her celebrity endorsements. Well, who cares if Megan Thee Stallion gets paid? Seriously. Let that check bounce. Just saying. It's pretty bad when South Park is better than CNN. Yeah, that's true. That's true, my friend. Yeah, that's fine, Anson Knowles. I just like I said, I didn't prep for this show. It's been very, I was very busy yesterday. I got in, I just didn't have the timeline like I kind of wanted to have everything going. And, I have enough distractions. So this is interesting. I've heard this theory that the sentencing would be postponed and they'll just keep kicking the can down the row until after the next election. But I don't think that they can do that. But we'll see. I believe this to be true as well. I believe the prosecutors are going to back off. I think what they're going to end up doing is they're going to just grant his appeal, and they're basically just not going to show up. So let's see. So I didn't, as I mentioned the other day, I didn't actually get to watch Glenn's debate with Ben. I only caught a few minutes of it, but I think my original estimation of the debate is correct, and that Ben Sorry, I'm not in my roller chair today. I got to scoot an actual chair around. I feel like that Ben was probably going to be fairly bad faith, and when he, and he was, I think. Ben's a good debater. And I know what Anson said, that he believes that Ben probably came out ahead and made his arguments fairly well, but I don't know. I think Ben's inability to answer any question directly kind of negates any of his pre-programmed responses. Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting. All of this is very interesting to me, you know. Yeah. See, I like this. I think California and New York both. So I actually was hanging out. You Republicans in California across the board is huge, proving that we can fight back and start turning things around with multiple rebukes of leftist criminal policy, mayors, and DAs. It's very important, I think, to acknowledge that the states with the states that you are typically so blue you can't even think about flipping them were very close this year, like really, really close. And you have to kind of wonder, I don't know if you guys saw Elon Musk meme the other day where he pointed to all the states that had all the blue states. None of them have voter ID laws, and all the red states do. And I thought that was very telling. And so probably, I think a push for voter ID laws is inevitable. And I think that California and New York especially need to push for voter ID laws. So, yeah, the straw man's really had, and I talked to Andrew yesterday, and he said it was just terrible. So, yeah. So I do kind of wonder what's going on in Michigan. Michigan seems to be one of those teeter-totter states that needs some leadership. I'm not really sure if you're going to get it, but we need that. We need you guys to get sorted out. But again, I think that when you look at New York, when you look at the way the New York broke down, there were districts where typically Republicans barely even have a percentage of the vote, where they had a large percentage of the vote. So that is really good. Imperious, that is correct. But the thing is that California is going to have a hard time going forward explaining to its citizens why it doesn't want to do voter ID laws. And more people, as Angel Berber has said, are standing up, and they're voting these people out. The big thing is that, okay, if they're not going to put it on the ballot, which is what they should do, if they're not going to put it on the ballot for every Californian to vote on, then, or if they're just not going to allow it to work its way through their California process, then they're just, I think they keep voting people out. If they're not for it, then you got to get them out. Yeah. I'm in New Jersey right now, Lauren. I'm in Jersey City, Jersey City. That's why none of my gear is working properly. Nothing works right in New York or New Jersey. Yeah, that's true. That is a massive change. So the problem is Imperius is currently there. It's very difficult to not beat those guys. So yeah. Yeah, guys, got to get these. We got to vote these bad people out, and we really need. I tell you, the other thing is, they really need to push for term limits. I know that I keep preaching about that, but we have to have term limits, guys. It's unbelievable that Congress is no longer just something a guy does for a couple of years. Now it's a full-time job forever. So that's just the way it is. Yeah, that's true. Imperius is correct. When the federal money is withheld, then that's what gets things to change. I agree with this. And Trump's the guy to do it, right? Like, I think day one he should halt all federal money to sanctuary cities. Like he did that last time, but I don't think it was very harsh. He needs to be like super harsh about it. And also he needs to withhold all federal money from states that do not have voter ID laws. And then that'll get on the books quick. So I'm not really sure about this one, Finley. I I think we're pretty balanced currently. I don't know. You did actually do that. Yeah, you did. Um, yeah, you did say all of that. He's dissolving the Department of Education. That's awesome. That's a few $1 billion that we don't have to spend. So that's awesome. Yeah, I need to get caught up, guys. I apologize. When I travel like this, it's really hard for me to stay up to date, and these are just not the best shows for me, but they're still good shows. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Yeah. See, Angel Berber, I think that you have more conservatives in California. The problem is a lot of them are single issue voters, and the single issue that keeps a lot of conservatives from turning that state red is the so-called abortion issue that California has, and the gerrymandering that keeps Republicans off of ballots to start with. Once you put a Republican on the ballot, typically they get elected. Lauren B., your town has the best marching band? Okay. I don't know why that's important, but okay. All right. Whew, man, just feels like everything is just, it's really difficult right now to understand. It's really difficult to understand where the players are too right now. Joe Mobley Show in the house. Good to see you, sir. The right is for secure voting. The left is for obscure voting. I rest my case. Yes, that's all you really need to say about that. Yeah, the problem isn't that there are less conservatives smoking Spaceman. The problem is that the way the districts are gerrymandered around, and they did this about 20 years ago on purpose. It's hard to even and their primary laws, since they only do a single primary, so it's they're basically since they only do the one primary, most often you have 3 Democrats and no Republican candidates to choose from in the primary, because the Republican doesn't even get enough votes to be primaried. So, and that's just due to the way that they've gerrymandered the districts, and it's just very difficult. When I was out there, it was very, very hard to understand what was going on. It was very, very hard to understand what's going on, but once I figured it out, I was like, I don't even know how they fix that. Right. I mean, you're going to have to re-win those districts and then redraw the lines. And it's and that's pretty interesting. So if Trump holds up to what he says he's going to do his first 24 hours, like this 10% credit card rate cap, that's going to be good for the people. Obviously, the credit card companies won't like that. But it would be very interesting to see how the credit card companies react to that, because I think what you're going to see is with that 10% interest rate, I think you might see the lowered credit lines, which is fine. That's okay. It's not really an intrusion to the private sector so much as it is since all of the banks have to work with the federal bank. It's just the federal bank really controlling what people are able to see and do. I don't actually have a problem with that. I think there are worse things out there for us to deal with. But yeah, you're going to see a lot of things going forward that are meant to stimulate the economy, stimulate spending, stimulate manufacturing and growth, and that will be great across the board. The thing that I'm very concerned about, or somewhat concerned about, is how we're going to stimulate offshore trade, because honestly, it's a tough one, yeah, it's just rough. Good afternoon, Michelle. How are you? If you're free, you can come up on the stage and we can banter back and forth, because at some point we've got to make this show a little more interesting. And I'm just sort of rambling on right now because I'm not in my actual studio, so I don't have any of my actual stuff, and it's been a tough. So it's been tough, but I can take it. So yeah. Welcome, Briar Wolf. Good deal. You'll be on Imperious. You know what? It's okay, Imperious. Come on up. One of the mods will get you the link. If not, I'll get it to you. I think we only have one mod in here right now, and that is Michelle. Let me check. She does have the link and can send it to you. I just don't know if she wants to be messing around in your privates. Matter of fact, I don't know if you want her messing around in your privates. So yeah. What's up, Chino Prime? Good to see you. Good to see you. I would really like somebody else's opinion who watched the whole thing of the Glenn and Ben debate. So if somebody watched that and wants to break it down for me, that would be great. If they can come up and do that. You don't have to, but it would be great if they could. I don't think that's true, Imperious. I'll tell my wife, Lauren. Yeah. It's a professional degenerate, yeah. Lauren B., I will tell my wife that the wandering jewel plant needs more light. Angel, you're welcome to come up. Angel Berber. Why would you not be? A gentleman and a scholar. Because I'd really like to discuss it. I'd really like Glenn to come on, but he is, I don't know where Glenn's at. I don't know what he is doing these days. I think I saw him on this morning, so he might be asleep. He might be asleep. I think it's interesting that Lauren noticed that was a wandering jewel plant. That's pretty interesting. I didn't know that. All right, we have Michelle here. Did she not come up? There we go. Hello, Michelle. Oh, that's
good morning. Good morning.
Michelle doesn't love you.
Yeah, she loves me. She loves me.
She may not despise you. I don't know if
her and Sarah love me. They dream of me every day. No, Grit. There's a lot of moving parts, dude. I don't blame you. There's a lot going on right now.
It's really hard to follow. I really need to be. What I really need is I need that extra hour or so in the morning to like get prepared and stuff, and I just have not. Haven't had that. So
yeah,
it's
no, I mean, well, you gotta follow the Fed. Like I was saying in the chat, the Fed again dropped another 50 points last week, so that's 2 drops before the election that they've done. So I mean, that's probably going to continue. That's encouraging, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But I think, like I said, the big one is the abolishment of the Department of Education. That's going to be a massive fight, dude.
That would be such a great move. Like right out of the gate, I 100%. I support that like a lot.
Well, yeah, because that's going to stop the whole high school to college funnel that the liberals use to brainwash all these kids. See, that's the thing. Yeah. It's like there's just free money sitting there for everyone to go to college and be like, see, that's the thing. Like Republicans, what they've done for so long is they've caused their own destruction by funding and allowing for the funding of all the things the Dems want. Like, that's the thing. The Republicans have just stood there and gone, oh, okay, let's just go along with everything. Like, that's the thing. It's literally, everyone thinks it's like this whole huge reorgan. No, you just literally have to do the same things they've been doing as enacting the same things they do. It's literally that Republicans for so long have been used to losing and they don't know how to do anything.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Trump has only stated things that he can actually do, right? Like he can unwind the Department of Education with an executive order. So that's not like a pie in the sky thing that he's just like promising to do that he can't do.
Yeah, no, he can. I mean, it's under the executive branch. I mean, it's not a statute that department is required by Congress and a law. You know what I mean? Yeah. It can be it can be distributed to the states like it should be, and that's what he was talking about.
And I think that's what he's going to do. I think what Trump's goal is this time in office, man. I think his goal is he wants to push as much as he can back to the states and make it and tied up in make it so that they have to go to the Supreme Court, who will officially push it back to the states. You see, this is a really good game of chess, right? So Trump knows that if he runs it through Congress is just going to kick that can around for the next 30 years and never do anything. So what's better is Trump goes in, uses an EO and says, there's no more Department of Education, period. The states will handle it themselves. The funding for the DOE will be,
disseminated.
It'll be redistributed into by states and based on what the taxable economy is and that sort of thing. So if your district maybe doesn't pay as much in taxes, you might get a slightly larger share short term than counties that had larger, or states have larger tax bases, but I think that's a very short-term thing. And what it forces, see, Congress can't then come and then say, "Oh no, we're gonna officially establish the DOE from as a federal a federal law, right? A federal grant." And then he can, and the only thing they can do is go through the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is going to look at this, and there's no precedent that I can think of for the Department of Education to exist. And that,
the precedent is more that the executive can dissolve it. He can dissolve an agency if he wants to. That's the, and that's completely under his purview. That's been ruled on many times. And the Department of Education is just a purview of the executive branch.
Yes,
like that's all it is.
Yeah. So I think that's all really good. I foresee him. I foresee him really coming in. I think his goal is to push as much to the Supreme Court as he can, because the Supreme Court is ruling pretty constitutionally these days. And they're
still center right. They're not far right, but yeah, I mean, they're going to rule more in a conservative manner, in a more traditionalist manner on things.
I think that they're not going, like, all right, look, the problem with Roe v. Wade, right, was there was no constitutional basis for them to establish that precedent. They just did it. And
yeah. They're kind of they're pulling back a lot of the liberal courts' more expansion of like the court's interpretation. They're just reverting it back to what ruling should have been. I mean, but they're not. What I mean is they're not going to be so right wing where they're going to start imposing some new kinds of standards on things. Like you're not like there's reasons they passed on certain cases. Like they passed on that case for Illinois or Indiana where the parents were, or the kid was taken by CPS because the parents didn't want to transition the kid. Like they're not going to handle that right now. They're going to go first for the schools, and if schools can force bathrooms first and stuff, like they're very gradual on how they're going to enact new things. But they will bring back out of scope ruling under purview. You know what I mean? Like they will do that. Like for example, like a lot of the NFA cases, like you're going to see a lot of firearm cases, I think, coming up here in the next few years. They're going to restrain that. Yeah, they're going to restrain that. Now, not everything. Like I genuinely feel they're probably going to allow like fully autoed to be regulated and tax stamped. But I'm thinking that pretty soon you're going to see suppressors be deregulated out of the NFA pretty soon. That'll be a case probably coming up. Things like that. Maybe even short barrel shotguns might get off that. So those kind of things, but they're not like totally going to just go get rid of the NFA. Like I know a lot of people are like, let's just get rid of it. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like that's just not good.
Right. So I agree with all of that, but I think that Trump's doing it because he knows that the court that he has in place now, and counting on being able to replace Thomas and Alito in this next term, gives him potentially the most constitutionally biased towards the Constitution court that we've had in decades.
Yeah, 100 years. 100 years.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I definitely agree. He has a better luck going through that avenue. But the thing is I think the problem with it, if you go through the court, is it's still not established law, and another court in whatever 50 years can still wind it back. You really do want to push it through Congress if you can, because once you get that law on the books, even liberal courts are really hesitant to just overrule a law passed by Congress and enacted by the executive and then put into law for 4 or 5 years. Right. It's just hard to do that. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to roll back a law once it's been implemented for a long period of time, and that's what the liberals do, and that's what they rely upon when you go to the court, is they enact these laws they know are unconstitutional, but they know it takes 5 years to wind through the court, and the court will say, oh well, it's kind of been in place for this long, we can't really rule it back all this much. We can't. So I think he does need to push omnibus measures to kind of, and reconciliation to kind of pass spending measures. Like he can, I think you need to. I think on any NDAA, like any national defense spending, I think you put a rider on that for tons of spending, because I don't think for a national defense authorization spending, I don't think you need closure of 60 votes for that. I think you only need 51 for spending. So put riders on these spending bills. You know what I mean? That's what I would think. And just spending riders, for example. Like I would put on there, any city or jurisdiction or any state that has sanctuary cities will not receive any federal funding. Like you could put that rider on the budget, because it's a spending bill. It's spending authorization.
Yeah. So I think that there's a couple of different ways that Trump is going to have to go about this to be successful that I can see. Now maybe he sees something I don't. He often does, but this is how I see it. Right. This is what I think is probably going to be the way forward. First, as you've said, and I agree, Trump has to control. Well, first of all, he has to kick as much as he can back to the states, and at the same time, he needs to make it clear to Congress that if bills are not brought and passed to keep those items at state level, except for constitutional, right? So we have you understand, and I know you do, we have this really weird thing going on right now, or for the last 80 years, where we have what states should have the ability to legislate, like abortion, for example, being legislated by the government effectively through the Supreme Court, where things that the government, and firearms laws, right? So abortions have been able, states have been able to not make their own abortion laws, but they have been able to make their own firearm laws. Now, one of those is in the Constitution, and one of those is not. And so we've been in this kind of like bizarro reverso world that we're finally kind of spinning back out, right? And the same thing goes with a lot of the finance and banking regulations, trade regulations. The way that trade deals are constructed is very, very weird, very strange. So, and I do agree with Angel Berber. Thomas is one of the greatest of the judges in American history, and it will be sad to see his tenure end. However, he said that he plans to retire. I think with Trump winning, I expect to see Thomas retire within the first 6 months.
He's interesting. Thomas is an interesting cat, dude.
He is interesting.
He said on record before he wants to serve for 48 years on the court, because that would be the longest serving justice.
Yeah.
Now that would take him past
I don't know that he said that, but I did read it. Yeah.
Now I will see. I think the surefire one is Alito. I think Alito wants out of Washington. I don't think he wants to deal with the shit with what they've gone after his wife with the flag and hassling him with all kinds of shit. I think he's just over it. And,
his health and Thomas' health is just, both of them are having health issues.
Thomas is an ox. Thomas is in great health, but Alito is getting a little. No, he is. He's in great health. Yeah, he's right. Thomas is in great health. He's an ox, dude. He's like one of those old grandpa dudes. He lived out. He grew up on a plantation pretty much. Eating vegetables, food. He's very conservative. He doesn't do a lot of the like in-person activities to stress himself out. You don't really see him too much doing things. He kind of keeps to himself and just relaxes and stays close to his faith. Remember, he was going to be a priest. He was going to be a Catholic priest before he became an attorney.
Right.
So he's very subtle and he's very quiet. You don't hear much. I can't
believe it, but Speakeasy is over on Chaotic Truth. That's very interesting.
Oh, the two guys, they're both terrified of me. No, Speakeasy. Poor guy. I was probably a little too hard on him, but yeah, no, what we're seeing here is the court is an interesting animal, because they also like to kind of handpick their successors a little bit.
Yeah.
And so it takes a year or two for them to kind of handpick who they want. So I wouldn't see it like, I mean, you may see after this term Alito retire just because I
Mhm.
think he may want out of it. But I think if Thomas is going to do it, it would be maybe next term or the term after.
Sure.
I think he wants to write the assault weapons ban regulation. I think he wants to write that decision to kind of for his legacy. I think he wants that one. So we'll see. I mean, maybe if he gets to write that, because remember we got that case up for the December 6th conference. That Maryland assault weapons ban case. And
Well,
I think it's
there are
Bianchi
two,
versus Frost,
yeah,
I think.
yeah, there are two AWB cases. Now they've already ruled on the Illinois one, and the Maryland one is probably going to go the exact same way that the Illinois one went.
No,
Now,
the difference is the Illinois, that was all interlocutory. The Maryland assault weapon is what the court wants. It's a full ruling by the Third Circuit. That's what the thing is. What we've learned
well,
about
there's a
this court,
third
though.
case too, though that's also an AWB that they've actually ignored the court's initial finding and went ahead and passed the AWB anyway, along with the
Yeah, I
Magnum.
heard about that.
And
Yeah, I
can't
heard about
remember,
that one.
it wasn't Illinois. It was
No, it was another state. I think it was Colorado or something. One of those, something like that.
yeah,
But I heard about
Colorado,
that.
California one, yeah.
But that's not what I'm worried about. We need this. If we can get this because the Maryland case is the one with the full ruling by the Third Circuit. And not just that, but if you've
Yeah.
read what the Third Circuit wrote, they have to take the case or Bruin
Yeah.
meant nothing. Because
Mhm.
what they were doing is they pulled out the whole, oh, it's a technological advancement, so it doesn't matter about prior
Right.
history. It's, they had
So
all
they
kinds of
ignored
things they were.
Bruin altogether. Yeah.
Yeah, and so the court really has to take that case unless they're just going to give up on Bruin altogether. And I just don't see that because they still use the Bruin
Sure.
methodology even in the Rahimi case. Like
Yeah.
the Justice Department, Merrick Garland thought that bringing the Rahimi case was going to like re kind of evaluate Bruin, but it really didn't. They're going to rule a narrow ruling on that and say yes,
Mhm.
yes, dangerous people can be restricted from firearms. That's facially true, but they're not going to rule on the as applied challenges. That means how is that law applied? Not just
Yeah.
a lot of these cases are facial, and that's the
Mhm.
thing. I mean, facially, it's tough to get a facially unconstitutional ruling on a case like that. So we'll see. But I don't think the court is going to just pass on Bruin on that big of a ruling on what they did
Mhm.
and then just ignore it. They didn't with Rahimi. They have it. The court has just affirmed that they're not going to hear interlocutory cases on constitutional
Mhm.
rights unless it's some out of like a free speech thing or someone just comes and takes your gun for no reason. If it's something outlandish, they will. But if it's in that kind of paradigm, or if it's in the kind of, how would you say, the boundaries of what they deem as acceptable, they'll wait on it and allow it until it trickles through and actually gets to a petition for the court to hear it. Not an interlocutory ruling. They're just not going to hear those anymore.
Yeah.
I think that's just kind of the end of it. I mean, we just need to accept that. But the thing is, what's important though is they are, and they see Maryland is they're a really stupid attorney general, because they have two cases. They have the case about the assault weapons ban case, but then they also have other cases that the court wants to hear from them in response to, because one of the cases is how they apply how the court applies an interlocutory ruling to Second Amendment cases. So if they want like an immediate, to put a stop to a law, like if the court wants to put a stop to, or if a plaintiff wants a law to be null and void, or put an immediate, halt on it. Well, the courts, they've been looking at Second Amendment cases completely wrong.
Oh yeah.
And that is kind of what the Third Circuit is being asked to explain right now. by the Supreme Court. So if we can have that, where we get the case where they have to relook at, and the court is going to force these lower courts to look at preliminary injunctions and how they should look at them for Second Amendment cases, that will be a huge one too, because then we won't need these whole wait 5 years to get to the Supreme Court, or get to a court of appeals, or get, you know what I mean? They'll be kind of restrained, and they'll be kind of directed on how to look at Second Amendment cases. So I think that this was a huge election because I really hope the biggest thing we can hope for as proponents of the Second Amendment would be to use the Department of Justice to go after states that pass laws that are in direct violation of the Second Amendment, just as the federal government does to protect constitutional rights for voting, for free speech, for freedom of movement, for religious persecutions, for marriage, how would you say, recognition throughout all states for gay marriage or whatever. They're going to have to do that, and once that happens, you're going to see the states stop doing all the nonsense. There has never been an attorney general or a Department of Justice that has gone after states for state level Second Amendment restrictions. Never in the history of this country. So imagine if the feds start suing that's why Newsom is in Washington today. Like, he's in Washington today to lobby House members of the House and the Senate, because he knows all this is coming. Like his his EPA, he's pushing today to try to get the EPA to affirm 4 rulings about like gas powered handled machines, like blowers and stuff, and everything has to be removed, because he's trying to push it on the rest of the country. He wants the EPA to push, I think it's 2058. The new rule would be that all handheld blowers and stuff would have to be banned nationwide. I think
I read that.
Yeah, he's trying to get up to Washington to get them to pass as much as they can in the next 2.5 weeks or 2.5 months. You know what I mean? That's what he's there for today. That they know this is coming. And that's where what they're doing now is it's just like a military, like a battlefield. They're redeploying their troops in a more defensive position to hold out to wait for the attack. That's kind of what's going on. So, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. But it's going to be an interesting time, definitely. I think,
definitely. It's 100% going to be an interesting time. It's and I agree with a lot of what you said. It's how to say this? It's interesting to me, right, that with the way that Trump is approaching this is really to push. He's really actually forcing the government to use all 3 branches again, where Congress for so long has been, rather than actually making good legislature, they have just pushed everything kind of moved it, if you will, to the court. And the court's obviously not perfect at doing that. So it's I don't know. It's interesting to me, right? It's
well, and also with Chevron gone. With Chevron gone, it's going to force the legislature can't pass the buck to the executive anymore. So the legislatures actually have to do its job and actually write laws that are specific and actually address what they're trying to address. Not just leave it vague and let the executive do what it wants, because then Congress can't be blamed because there's 435 of us and we just go, oh, I didn't know.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that. I think Trump is really, I think his goal is to push the government as it stands into doing its job.
Exactly. Get it to do the job of working for the American people. Yeah, just get it to do its job as it should be functioning. For 50 years, we've been functioning for other people and for the globe, not for ourselves.
Well, not just that, but, for realistically, let's just be honest, for the past 16 years at least, everything's been done with EO. Congress has been unwilling to sign bills into law because they don't want to be held responsible. They don't, they simply want to be reelected, and if they can't be reelected, then But if they feel like, hey, signing off on this law means I'm not going to get reelected, they're not going to do it. And so they've been able to basically push everything to the executive branch, which does an EO, which then goes to the Supreme Court. And they've been de facto basically using the Supreme Court as Congress.
Yeah, the scapegoat. They're using it as a scapegoat.
They've ceded their power over to them. And now what Trump has been able to do, along with some state legislatures and prosecutors, they've really pushed it back to where we're not there yet, but we're getting really close to where Trump has to, or not Trump, the Supreme Court can't, well, with Chevron gone, they can't. With EOs constantly being challenged, and I think Trump does things through EO that he wants it to be challenged in the court so that it pushes it back to Congress.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll give you a legal secret here, just some quick. The issue here is that, for example, the birthright citizenship law, the case, I think it was Wu Zundong, I think, an 1898 case with the Supreme Court. The issue is that nobody has standing to challenge that. And that ruling, there's no standing. And so when he places an executive order to restrict that, now that the people that are trying to get those things have standing to sue. So now that it can be a question. Now there is an actual question under law because you have someone with standing that can actually question it. See, he's restricting the permission so that the people that want the permission have to challenge it because no one else can challenge that or has standing to challenge it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why he's doing that. And it's smart. It's really smart. So, but yeah, like you were saying, he's going to use executive orders to force the liberals to force it into court.
Yeah.
That's what he's going to do. So anyways, I'm going to hop off for lunch, guys, but good chat. I'll try to hop on later. Are you going to be on for Sarah's thing tonight or no?
Appreciate it. Go have your lunch. Don't eat anything.
If you're on Sarah's tonight, I'll try to hop on with you, dude.
I'm going to try, but I'm this,
it's late. Yeah. She does it late. I know.
Well, actually I'm on the East Coast, so it works out, but
okay.
Right now, but I've got to get up in the morning. I've got a flight tomorrow. So,
but I always like flying out early too. I try to get out like 6 or 7.
I'm traveling with my 4-year-old, so that takes extra time.
Yeah,
Mr. Boulay.
All right, brother. Well, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Mr. Boulay has sent in a super chat. Mr. Boulay, since we are on StreamYard today, we will not have the TTS. However, I will read it for you immediately. Mr. Boulay in the Department of Numismatics sends in $10 American. Happy Veterans Day to all who have proudly served in our armed forces. Happy belated yesterday. 249th birthday to the United States Marine Corps. Semper Fidelis. Crayons for everyone. I added that last part myself. Guys, I did not do my normal grift speech at the beginning of this show, just because, to be honest with you, I'm just kind of out of sorts with having been here and not having all the right gear and everything. So we'll just continue forward as best we can. Clovertac, how the hell are you, sir? Clovertac? I think we lost Clovertac, guys. Clovertac. I see him wiggling back and forth between mute and not mute. It's the button on the left. It's always the button on the left.
Better?
There you go. Now we can hear you.
Betting. Go figure.
You're a little bit low, but that's okay. That way I can talk over you.
Yeah, that's weird that I'm low because
no, now you're back. Now that's good.
I'm just not talking loud enough. I need to yell at you.
Okay, yell at me. Go ahead.
Too soft spoken, man.
I'm very soft spoken the past couple of days, mainly because my 4-year-old's right in there. So
yeah.
I need to be quiet, somewhat quiet.
Nap time or just don't want to disturb his.
I would rather him not come running in here screaming, wanting to play.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, valid.
if that happens, that happens. But
Valid. So what's your there was a lot of 2A talk. What's your
we were just using it as an example of how Trump has pushed the is pushing using EOs and other basically he's using EOs and he's pushing other bills through, and he's pushing cases through specifically to make the Supreme Court do its job. And they're not really they seem to not be as okay with it as they should be, but that's okay. And we're it's all good in the hood, right?
Yeah. What's your 2A wish list?
My 2A wish list, well, to be honest with you, I would
a realistic wish list. Let me back that up.
Okay. So realistically, I do believe that we could abolish the NFA. I think that actually, let me rephrase. I think that we could get rid of the ATF. There's nothing left for them to regulate, and the state should be regulating everything they're supposed to be regulating anyway. And I think they know that. I think that's why they've really tried and seem necessary the past few years. But we don't need the ATF, and it could go away. And Trump could make that happen pretty easily, right? Yeah. Now, the GCA of 34, that requires Congress to repeal that, although I don't know that it's ever been challenged in the Supreme Court at all.
It hasn't.
And I think in using the current bellwethers, the NFA would fail on every point.
I don't think it would.
You don't think so?
Be some. No, I think that machine guns and AOWs, I think, are two areas that would be really sticky. Even going through. I was about to. Yeah. I was about to. I agree with you on SBR, SBS, and suppressors. Those are three that would be they would be on my wish list, and I think that's entirely possible. With if you use, and even Sotomayor, this is one of the things of why man, if we were going to keep a left-leaning, whatever you want to call it, justice, I would prefer to keep Sotomayor because
I would rather keep her than some of the others.
Even she has brought up common use, the whole common use thing. And at this point, suppressors, SBRs, SBSs, let's be honest,
it's all common use. So I actually agree with you.
Not to mention the requirements, the restrictions of those from 34 are arbitrary at fucking best anyway, right?
So here's my problem with the common use language applied to fully automatic weapons and destructive devices. First, destructive devices would simply be able to be fathered into the same demolition laws as dynamite and everything else. So you would, you would need just to prove that you know how to use it and, be licensed and all that. I don't see where destructive devices is a sticking point. We already have a method for dealing with that. By
the way, real quick, I misspoke. So I need to go back and clarify.
Yeah, no, you said AOW instead of destructive.
When I said AOW, I meant destructive devices.
I knew what you were talking about.
AOW is stupid. Who gives a shit if it looks like a pen? That's dumb. It's a handgun.
So the machine gun thing, the correct argument against that is since they've been regulated since 1934, there's no way they could be in common use. That's the problem. And I don't actually see that being a sticking point or the single point that would save the NFA or the GCA of 34.
Well, it also depends on what we mean by common use, because there is an interpretation that is often used that in common use it means in common use by the military. And going back to original interpretation of the Second Amendment, if we're supposed to have the same arms as the military, then we would be allowed to have the same things that are in common use in the military, and then therefore machine guns are fair game.
I would simply say that there are easier ways to regulate, fully automatic weapons. There are better ways to regulate those than the NFA.
Well, I think if you shoot down any type of fucking price control stuff, right? Which I think is safe to say that none of that stuff really has a chance. I know that Harris was talking about basically price controlling groceries and a lot of other stuff, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's bullshit. So in the sense of something like a price control, which we know is not going to fly, it makes zero sense that something like the Hughes Amendment would fly that completely eliminated an entire industry. It completely eliminated the entire civilian sector of full auto, even though under 34, you were required to register and go through all your infringement fucking hoops, right? They still killed an entire industry, an entire sector of an industry. So I do see where I don't necessarily see a realistic, at least immediate, and all this is dribs and drabs. We could potentially get there way of getting machine guns back from 34. I do see another pathway by which we could eliminate 86. Manufacturers could start making modern machine guns again, and then you could jump through the hoops should you choose to get those machine guns.
So again, I think there are pathways. I just can't think of a single use for the ATF, and I believe the NFA was unconstitutional when it was passed. It's unconstitutional today. Sure, if you want to write some kind of reasonable control on who can acquire fully automatic weapons if you want, and we'll decide if that's constitutional when you get done with it. Until then, let's just stick with what's constitutional and move forward.
Yeah.
That would be my so that'd be first on my wish list. NFA, the ATF gone, NFA declared unconstitutional. Probably my third wish list that's within the realm of reality is probably some form of legislation. Oh no, pardon me, not a ruling in the Supreme Court defining the Second Amendment in such a way that it can't reasonably be assailed, by individual states or anything like that. And actually, to be honest with you, I don't have a problem with, say, Illinois saying that to own a machine gun, you need to pay the Illinois state government, $200 or whatever. I don't have a problem with that. I only have a problem with it in the federal realm, if that makes sense. Pardon me.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it.
And I really have a problem with.
I think I do. I think I do.
I really have. I have a bigger problem with the 1982 was it, or 88 law concerning the machine gun amnesty. That is
86. You're talking about Hughes.
86. Thank you.
Yeah.
The GCA of 86 or safe something safe
Protection Act, FOPA.
Yeah, FOPA. Yeah. In 1986, what they effectively did is they made it so that all registrable machine guns became massively overpriced, and there's no reason for it. And they, obviously they knew what they were doing when they did it. And it's made some people criminals for just importing things that they could legally own if it was manufactured a year earlier.
It's made people criminals that have found grandpa's bring back or
that's true
in the attic. What are you talking about?
That's true. Yeah, that's true. And that's really happened. And so I have a problem with anything on the national level, statewide.
And worse, real quick. Worse, not only has that happened, but worse, there is no pathway to that, even though it is pre-ban, let's just say, pre-86.
But it's not transferable.
Right? And then it's like, what do you do? Because in a lot of cases, you're talking about a very rare historical firearm even, right?
Yeah.
And so it's turned in and destroyed. And you're like, what the fuck? Like,
so the gun shop down the street from me, they had a Thompson, or maybe a pair of Thompsons that that were made in Connecticut or wherever. I think they were made in Connecticut. They were sold some hardware store back in the day, and just the person who had them never registered them, never did anything to them. You just kept them. They were just there. And somehow the gun shop ended up with them, I think on an SOT or something. That's how they kept them from being destroyed when they were found decades later. Pardon me, I have to blow my nose.
You're fine. Sports Brand brings up another one too that talked about, which is ITAR. And yeah, ITAR is fucking retarded.
Yeah, ITARs are very interesting. I don't know why I'm sneezing so much today. I just started. Somebody must be lying in my presence. Bibbing. Someone's bibbing. At any rate, when
I ship all my caps out with a healthy dose of anthrax.
Yeah, there you go.
So that's probably what it is.
I've been wearing this in New York and New Jersey the whole time.
Yeah, you have the last few days, I've noticed.
It's actually the only hat I brought with me. So anyway, man, I'm just sneezing too much. You go ahead. Hold on a second. I'm going to drop off and you talk.
Yeah, well, while Grid does that, let's go through and see. Yeah, I agree. The home ITAR, for those that don't know, what is that? International Trade and Arms Regulation, something along those lines, has to do with, whether or not something is considered military, and whether or not it comes from a different part of the world. And yeah, it's all part of that import-export thing. Really, it stifles innovation big time, and that's one of the major issues that I have with it personally.
Pardon me. Still going.
And then even if here's what's fucked up about all the ITAR and the fees and the payments. Unless I'm wrong, ITAR is a Department of the State thing. It's not even tied to the ATF. And then
I think you're right.
And then on top of that, it is also, damn, where was I going with that? It was something else that was jacked up about it. There's a lot that's jacked up about it. You can be a manufacturer of certain things, manufacture everything within the U.S., sell only in the U.S., and still be subject to all the ITAR fees and taxes, which is stupid. Absolutely stupid. And again, that's where it stifles innovation for somebody to start a small company, and they have no intentions of doing anything, as far as selling foreign or anything like that, keeping everything within, the U.S. But there's a lot of weird things like did you know that regulation on shotgun shells are more so regulated under Department of Commerce than they are anything else?
Yeah.
How jacked is that? Like, that makes
what's interesting to me is and I'm probably the only one, is that You know, you remember back, I bet you were one of the guys that got Shotgun News every month, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And you'd open it up, and there'd be all of these little companies that sold Russian military surplus, night vision gear, IR stuff, all kinds of cool stuff. And it was cheap. It was like you buy some nods for like no money at all. And all that's gone because that all falls under ITAR.
Well, how about this? Here's another fucked up thing about it all, right? And I don't know necessarily that this falls under ITAR, but it damn sure falls under the importation related stuff. Look at all of the literal crates of American military surplus stuff around the world that we can't get back into this country. And people would love to have, M1 carbine, M1 Garens, freaking 1903s, historical, awesome fucking American military, stamped United States of America. It's our shit.
Yeah.
And they won't allow us to bring it back in.
Yeah.
What the hell?
True. That is true. That's very true.
1911s out the wazoo, just Korea. The stuff in Korea is unbelievable. I don't know if you've ever looked into that, but like crate upon top of crate, top of crate of stuff from the Korean conflict.
Yeah, no, I actually I did look into that. To be honest with you, it's very interesting because, like, you remember, you probably do remember, but most people won't. A couple of years ago, 10 years ago, probably 15, something like that, we actually had we had to sign another treaty with, I think, the Philippines to re-import M1 Garands and 1911s and M1 carbines that we had sent over there during World War II. And I mean, we're talking warehouses full, massive amounts. And we had to do that because we needed them for the CMP.
Right.
And all of a sudden, for years, you couldn't buy a decent M1 Garand through the CMP, which is the entire purpose of the CMP. You couldn't buy a gun. You couldn't buy one through there until they sorted this thing out. I'm pretty sure it was the Philippines where they were coming from. And then we were getting some like Turkish Mausers back in and things like that. But then that all got shut down. They closed the loophole, and then we couldn't get it. And it's kind of crazy, really. I think it is. I don't know about anybody else, but I think it's kind of nuts.
Yeah, if it belongs to us, I don't get the problem,
Right. Yeah, exactly. Not only is why does it matter to us? Why can't we just keep our stuff, right? Like this is, it's not a big deal, right? It's
yeah. Like if we were talking about bringing in, World War II, German surplus stuff. It's like, okay, you can make an argument, right? You could.
Oh no, you can bring that in. You can bring in some of that under the Curion relic stuff still.
Well, I know, but that's what I'm saying. I said if I was posing the hypothetical that,
right?
If that was the thing, like, okay, I can see you making arguments there, but when it belonged to us to start with, like it makes no sense. It's like, what is the problem? It's always been okay. It's always got the approval and the check mark, but now for some reason it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird thing for sure. I've only been exposed to that really because through the CNR stuff and the mostly, actually, to be honest, most of the stuff that I've seen it be a problem concerning is the bring back, or not bring back, but the all of the com block stuff that people want so much, and was so super cheap at one point in time. It was just so ridiculously cheap, and then it got to be ridiculously expensive. So.
And you mentioned something with the machine guns earlier, and I'm sure with the surplus, this goes on too. You've got a lot of major players in that game as far as the investment goes that are working against us. Don't think for a second they're not.
I thought that too.
And that's where we got to be real careful about, people seemingly pro 2A in our midst that really are not. And so because they know there are certain things. I don't believe the machine gun issue to be this, but with the surplus, for example, if you was to bring in tens of thousands of, Garand's, tens of thousands M1 carbines, the surplus 1911s, the real deal, whatever, that is going to affect the collectible value, intrinsic value market here because you're bringing in original stuff, right?
Yeah.
Where opening up the industry in regards to new production machine guns, they're new production machine guns, right? So it would be the same as Colt bringing back the snake guns. Yeah, okay, you can get a modern production Colt snake gun, but you don't have an original Colt snake gun. It's a modern production snake. So you really don't affect the market that much. The surplus would. I don't think the machine gun. I don't think it would be the same.
Sure, I agree with that. I think that's true.
But either way, I think you have people invested in both that, for lack of a better term, let's say lobby, right? To keep the status quo, so they've got their investments.
Yeah, that's true. When's I don't normally grow out my beard, Anson. I love surplus guns too. Effing epic. I really do. Yeah. It's just so interesting. Like, man, I remember the Norinco 1911s were just so awesome. That's those are no more. All of it. What's your 2A wish list? Let's dig into your side. What do you think Trump can do? What can Trump do for you?
What can Trump do for me? Man, the problem is I would like to see, it's not just a Trump thing. I would like to see, and this is where, by the way, for those that don't know, what is it, Wednesday, the Senate votes? You need to be on your senators' asses about Senate Majority Leader. My opinion is Rick Scott is the only one that we can have and be able to move forward with, a pro-America, pro-2A, pro getting this country fucking back where it needs to be agenda. The other ones are too lukewarm on Trump. And this is coming from one of them being John Cornyn, which is from Texas. And he's a fucking rhino dumbass. And so, yeah, Rick Scott, let your senators know it's Rick Scott or fucking bust, or they need to find somebody else, right? And I don't even remember. There's John Cornyn and Rick Scott and another John from like South Dakota or some shit that I can't even think of his name right now. I've never even heard of him before. But anyway, for me, my wish list sort of depends on Congress, quite honestly, and then him pushing things through. I would like to see some things codified. I would like to see some legislation that, and the left talks about this all the time with codifying Roe and shit, right? I would like to see, because that really is the stalwart. That really is what we need. All this back and forth fighting, depending on how a court shifts or seats shift over time or what district or region it's in and all this other horse shit, that all stops to some extent when codification occurs. And so I would like to see Bruin in some way, become codified in law. And I think by doing that, I think that opens, because I was going to say national reciprocity. That was going to be my quick original answer to you. But not in the sense of an executive order or, the courts, or I want to see a codification of Roe that leads to that, because, if you're going to recognize my driver's license, what's the fucking difference? If I can drive my car in your state or through your state, like, you could say, well, this state has an AWB, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or this state that's a bad example. Let's say this state restricts magazine capacity to 10, right? And
people get arrested in New York for that all the time.
And I'm carrying with 15, right? Well, that wouldn't be any different than that state restricts the car with some kind of emissions bullshit or whatever, and me driving through their state. Nobody is going to give a fuck if I drive through some type of crazy emissions state, California or whatever, with my, 1968 Oldsmobile. Like, nobody's going to give a shit. Now, if I was a resident, different story. But just passing through, just traveling, right? And so I think we've got an issue where,
well, in theory,
it's a restriction of traveling because you're restricting a right, and by restricting a right, you're potentially restricting my travel, which is restricting another right.
Well, so the FOPA in general is supposed to protect you. The Firearm Owners Protection Act, that's supposed to protect you.
Was supposed to, yes.
But in New York, people do get off the plane. Even if you're passing through. So there's a couple of court cases that I hopefully have wound their way through the court system so far, but there were some court cases where someone was passing through the New York airport with a firearm that was not, obviously New York compliant, and their luggage was seized, and they were fined $10,000 for the magazine limit. Because they had factory magazines, and I think it's 10 rounds in New York. So it's it's tough, man. It's a tough sell for someone not to be really super pissed about that, right?
Yeah,
I would be, just saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I would like to see this adjacent to 2A, but I mean, it also applies to everything. Yeah. I would also like to see, I don't know if it would be a rule change. I don't know if it would be some type of a constitutional amendment. I don't know what it would look like, but I would also love to see a defined sunset period on every single fucking piece of legislation that ever gets signed. It is only good. There is an expiration date on this shit. It's only good for X number of years. And I will point to the fact that the world changes. I agree. Yeah. I agree with this. Society changes, sentiment changes, technology changes, right? All this stuff changes. I mean, that's a fact. We can't deny that. And so one of the ways that we can keep moving forward is to say, okay, any piece of fucking legislation that gets signed, 5 years, 10 years, no more than 10, I would think, for sure. But even 5 years, like this shit sunsets. And if we need to re-up it, that's cool. At 5 years, we have that conversation and we re-up it. Yeah, or we let it go or whatever. And that keeps liberty and freedom restricting legislation, and especially that in combination with term limits, right? Would keep the infringements on our liberty and freedom at an absolute minimum, I think.
Sure. Yeah, I could agree with that. That would be that's actually a really good kind of thing to say. I think I agree with that a lot. So yeah, cool, man. What's your predictions for Trump's first 10 days in office? What do you think he's going to do?
I think that catch and release, I think, is going to go away. I think all of that will be strengthened quite a bit. That's on that front. Immigration and economy, I think, seem to be the biggest two issues. I think that they'll definitely go with that. I see some energy restrictions, energy-related restrictions. I don't know, specifics as to what that looks like. I don't know, but I see, potentially some signing of things that relieve or release a lot of that. That's the big two, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
I think we've already seen it with the stock market bounce. We've already seen it with a lot of things that
Well, I think
there's a lot. I think there's a lot of shit happens just from him getting sworn in. You know, like it happens on its own. It's not. You know, I'm not a rah. What does the government? I need the government to do for me. I'm a rah. Get the government out of the fucking way. And so, you know, I think just by potentially, you know, corporations, entities, whatever, seeing that, okay, we got somebody a little more stable, somebody that, you know, we understand is not going to be, you know, perpetually moving toward World War III, perpetually allowing a drain and a strain on all of our systems via the immigration issue, and they will start moving to do things on their own to alleviate things. You know, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's good. What do you
trickle effect?
Yeah, we have this this comment. I think it's a good comment on the screen. If someone travels and is ignorant of the law, that is no excuse. Replace a gun with marijuana. You drive through a non-weed state, you are pulled over. They are not violating your rights to arrest you. So here's the thing:
it's not a. Go ahead.
There's no right to marijuana.
That's what I was saying. There ain't no Second Amendment for fucking marijuana.
Yeah, so
miss me with that shit.
Right. Yeah. You unfortunately. While in theory, I agree that you should be able to travel from one place to the other with your personal items, and as long as you don't get out, sell anything, do anything, if you get pulled over, you shouldn't be. If it's legal in your state and legal where you are traveling to, and you can prove it, then I don't think it can hassle. However, that's not the way it is.
I was going to say that further. That comment is exactly two polar opposites.
Yeah.
Right to keep and bear is enshrined and guaranteed in the Constitution of the fucking United States.
Yeah.
Whereas marijuana is federally fucking prohibited.
Currently.
So it's two totally separate polar opposite issues. So
yeah, it's an interesting thing because I've actually had that question posed before, right? But let's just replace pot with like your non-emissions compliant car.
Yeah.
And where you are, there's no, like where I am in Tennessee, there's no emissions, right? Now here is something that could be done with marijuana, for example, right? So my car is legal in my state. If I drive to California, I get pulled over. They can't do anything about the state of my vehicle because it's not registered there. It doesn't belong there, and it's not going to remain there. Right.
Yeah.
If I were to sell it or trade it or whatever, then whoever purchased it will probably, before I sold it, I would have to make it California compliant to be sold in California. Right. So this is a much more analogous to the pot, right, thing, right? Because if you are truly carrying it for your own use and it's, you know, whatever, then you would, first of all, if you were legal in your state, I guess that could, if there were such laws. So the thing is that there's a law that says that if it's registered in my state, my car is fine, and you can't do anything about it. Now, that changes sometimes because trailers are not. Trailers are not the same as vehicles. So if I have so in Tennessee doesn't require me to have a tag on a trailer, an open trailer at all, like up to like 30 feet. I don't need a tag on it. I think my 22-foot trailer, I've never had a tag on. So if it's 16 feet and under, I don't think you have to have a tag on it unless it's enclosed. And even then, I think there's some requirement there before you need to have it enclosed. And the reason for that is because of farmers. Farmers don't want to have to pay to register the farm trailer that they take, vegetables to market with. And nobody wants farmers pissed off at them. Right. So at least that's always been that way in the state of Tennessee. Now, when you travel to, say, Texas, for example, if they will pull you over in an instant for not having a trailer tag on. And it's a pretty decent fine in the state of Texas.
We have farm tags here, but I
right. Right. Well, if you're out of state, right, and you were, and it doesn't matter that you're out of state. It's not doesn't, and Ohio, it doesn't matter, and so it can be very convoluted what is legal and not legal for your trailer based on the state you're passing through. But your car is irrelevant. So it's very, look, this is just the way our legal system works.
Yeah. Well, rights and privileges do not exist free of other rights and privileges, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's a complex thing. It's not that simple. So one can always lead and overlap and supersede the other. The way that everything is supposed to be set up is to allow maximum freedom and liberty. That's the whole idea. And so if you're going to the idea of maximum freedom and liberty, whatever set of regulations, whatever stipulations on rights, whatever that offers the, and we're talking about at the federal level, right? Because federal trumps state, whichever one of those allows the most liberty and freedom should be the one that's looked at first.
Yeah, I mean, I understand your point here, Octavius. I do. I'm not, and I don't think that you're necessarily wrong. I think that it's just that. So, states should not be able to enforce any real firearm laws, whereas at this moment, states are enforcing marijuana laws in violation of federal law. So that's kind of a weird thing there, but and I don't know if anybody even heard me since I was so far away.
If I'm traveling through and I've got a firearm that's federally legal, that's the issue.
Yeah.
Like they could pull me over. That's cool because I'm speeding or I've got a tail light out. I'm like, okay, cool. And they pull me over and I've got that firearm. But the problem pulling me over, detaining me for the purposes of the speeding or whatever is one thing. Arresting me because I have that firearm when I am not, a resident of that state and I'm traveling through, and especially so if it's obvious, right? I've got my luggage, you got the kids, whatever, right? That's problematic.
Right.
The weed thing, if weed is legal in my state and I'm traveling through a state where the weed is not legal, the weed is still not legal, regardless of whether I'm just traveling through or not. The weed is not legal in that state. And it's also federally not legal, which is problematic.
Yeah.
So there's two illegalities. I don't have any Bushism there, I guess. I'll make up my own fucking word. There's two illegalities as opposed to one.
So in the example I was using for the firearm is that there is a specific law on the books designed originally by Congress to protect firearm owners as they travel because of the various jurisdictions that they would have to pass through. And this is called the Firearm Owners Protection Act. And basically it says that if you're traveling through an area with a legally owned firearm where you're from, and it's legal where you're going, not that the state that you pass through needs to know that, but you're not staying in the state, right? Like you're not stopping at a hotel. I mean, I guess you can technically stop at a hotel for overnight, but you don't intend to stop at a hotel. You don't stop more for gas and maybe a meal, and you keep traveling. In other words, you don't, stop and spend the weekend with cousin Bubba and Aunt Janie and whatever. You don't do that. You drive through as quickly as you can. The Firearm Owners Protection Act means that you cannot be, they can't use any of their state laws against your legally owned firearm from another state. New York specifically constantly breaks the law by doing that very thing. When people land in the airport, even if they're transferring to another airplane, the TSA will notify the NYPD will then search your luggage, which they technically don't have a right to do. They do it anyway. And then when they find your 15-round magazine, you are then fined $10,000. It's a cash grab by the state.
Well, there's also an element of poking the fucking bear here, right? Too, right? And pressing your luck at play, I think. Yeah. So it's going to be a much different situation. And I've driven through Illinois many, many, many times.
I'm going to be right back.
I'll use that example. Never gotten pulled over. Don't honestly intend to, but you never know. But have drove through many, many times. So there's a big difference between I'm carrying on my hip, right? Okay, I'm just going to drive through, the corner here of Illinois. Not a big deal. I get pulled over. Hand him any firearms in the, vehicle. Yeah, I've got one on my hip. No, motherfucker, 2A, rah, fuck you, just be belligerent or be rude or like anything else. Big difference between that scenario and what I normally would do, which would be stop before I get to Illinois. Although I'm going to have to piss or, get a drink or something anyway. Take that off, take the ammo out, put the ammo separate from the firearm, put that in a case, and typically the case is in the trunk or something like that. And then if you get pulled over, that's a much different situation, right? So I think it's all dependent upon that. And it's also, let's be honest, it's also going to depend on who pulls you over, right? Some law enforcement people, even if you're the most cordial, nicest person and, you've done your best to kind of respect their laws, their regulations or whatever, they're still going to be fucking assholes. But I think in those situations, if you were to get arrested, get charged and all this other stuff, first of all, charging you and doing things like that anyway, with you being a non-resident, potentially could be problematic. But, I think then that's where some of these, 2A organizations and 2A legal teams and stuff would get involved. And yeah, it would still be a headache and a nightmare for you, no doubt. But that's why I say it's I'm not advocating. Don't get me wrong with what I'm talking about here. I'm not advocating that anybody get out there, press their luck, or poke the fucking bear, because the federal government, especially the federal government, hell, the state government, is a pretty big bear.
Right. Yeah, no, I get it, man. Well, let's kind of shift away from firearms for a minute, and let's talk about did Texas actually get their property tax law repealed?
Not yet.
Not yet. How close are you?
I don't know, man. A couple more terms, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I seen it was really interesting. I seen a video popped up the other day I was watching, and it had to do with, it was really weird. It was talking about why you should not move from or to Texas. And it was talking about housing costs and things like that. It never once mentioned property taxes. And I'm like, if you want, it was talking how Texas was short on housing, which we are. I wouldn't dispute that. But eliminating property taxes alone would spark major housing development and growth in Texas if they would do that. Majorly. And I don't know, it bugged me that wasn't mentioned in that video. But a lot of people that make these videos, I don't know, they can legitimately overlook something. I get it. But then, also you've got people out there that want to spin a certain narrative or make things look a certain way, and they conveniently forget shit too. So
yeah,
that happens as well. But that
happens a lot.
But yeah, no, not yet, man. Dude, getting the state to turn loose some money? Come on.
Yeah.
Right. And we have biannual sessions.
That's actually one of the subjects for
every other year, right? So, so for us, we can't try again next session. Like we have to wait. It's 2 years before we have a session we can try again. So that's what took us so long.
That's terrible.
That's what took us so long with the fight to get our constitutional carry and get some of the gun rights and stuff back the way they need to be. Is it takes twice the time it would any other state. Now, to be fair, and I love this, is you take the good with the bad. Yes, okay, it may take us twice as long to get things reversed or get things that we won't pass, but it also takes twice as long for them to fuck things up, which is good too, right? They're not in session every year to pass stupid bad laws every single year, so that's a good thing.
So what? All right. Well, that's actually an interesting thing. I think we're going to talk about when I get back, probably maybe Wednesday night when I have the ANCAP guy on, but more likely we'll do it Thursday afternoon or Friday, and that is the massive cash grab that the various government agencies are committing lately that seem to be. I don't know, kind of, I don't know. They seem to be really bad faith, really bad, what's the word I'm looking for here? Really, really corrupt. It's really corrupt. The DA being the best example of absolutely corrupt civil forfeitures that I can think of. But there's a lot of them out there. So, there seems to be an undercurrent of grift and graft, both, that is using the system to seize people's money and property on the shakiest of terms, knowing that it takes them forever to get it back, and it may not be able to. So, especially cash in airports, that seems to be the big thing right now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I didn't actually know that it was as big a problem in airports.
Was there a limit? Is there a limit to the cash you can fly with?
No, that's the thing. So this is actually really, I'll lay out the groundwork for it, and because we'll talk about it in the next show or in a show down the road. But so I came across this in an article that I was reading about how this guy who I think he's just kind of like a real estate investor kind of guy, and for some reason he had like $5,000 in cash on him. And so what happens is when you go through security and especially in specific airports, the TSA can't do anything about the cash, but they flag it to the DEA officer that's in the airport. Then before you get on your airplane, the DEA officer will come over and identify himself as a DEA agent and say, I need to search your backpack, or I need to search your, I need to, pat you down. I need to see what you've got on you or whatever. And if you ask about what, he's going to say, he'll just say, I'm just, we're suspicious, you might be carrying something that you shouldn't have, or, he'll be very evasive. And what they're looking for is cash. And they know you've got it because TSA's told them that you have it. And so if you really push it, and there's a really good video that's going around right now on some of the short channels, where if you really push it, they'll bring a dog in and they'll say that the dog alerts to your bag, but the dog's trained to alert to cash. They don't tell you what the dog is alerting to. They'll say, well, it could be cash, could be drugs, could be anything. We have to search the bag to find out. And when they do, they find the cash. If it's in about 5,000 seems to be the minimum amount, but when they find it, they'll confiscate it. And when they confiscate it, you have to prove to them that you had a legit reason for having it, and then you have to go through a very long process to get your cash back.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Yeah, and it's just a legal cash grab, and it So you have to declare if you were exiting the country with more than 10,000 in cash. But if you're just flying from Texas to Nashville and you have 15 or 20 grand in cash on you, you don't need to declare that, right? Because you're not going through customs.
Right. Correct.
Yeah. So there's nothing to declare. You are free to move about the country with as much cash as you happen to be able to carry.
Yeah.
So there's no law against it. There's nothing codified about it. It's just, there's this movement.
Can we agree it's probably not a smart idea to try to move with that much cash?
I don't disagree, but I think that people, there are people that often go on vacation or whatever, and they'll carry a few bucks on them, or they're flying somewhere to buy a car in cash or whatever, and so I've always thought it was very very interesting, and
well, that's where it's good to have a and this is just like my mitigating risk. This is where I'm going with this. Not anything.
Yeah, you're going to say a mitigating risk attitude.
This is where having an account at some type of a national chain bank would be beneficial, because you could deposit that, then you could fly to whatever city, go down to that bank, take the money out, get a cashier's check from there. You can do whatever right at that point, and go about your business, and you're not actually traveling with that. With that kind of money, and this is coming from a business owner. I've traveled to the bank with thousands and thousands of dollars in deposits, right? Like it's a crazy feeling, even in a state where you can carry and you can do all of that. Like, it's just, you're hyper aware of everything at that point. I would hate to go on vacation, I guess, or whatever is what I'm saying, and be so hyper aware that I've got 10 grand, 20 grand, in my pocket or in my bag or whatever. Because even aside from theft, right? Think of fire, flood, natural disaster accidents, and you end up losing it, right? Like anything.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different ways that people can go about doing that without having to worry too much about it, right? Like you could wire the money from your bank to another bank ahead of time, to yourself, right? And that way the bank even knows to have enough cash on hand, because, if you go, honestly, if you go into a bank, and need to pull out 20 grand in cash, they may not have it on hand. So
yeah, it's valid. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that there's things that you need to think about, but a lot of people really don't think that. Look, a lot of people don't think defensively. Right. They're thinking proactively, and proactively they want to have the money with them before they go and buy the boat or spend a weekend in Vegas or whatever it is they're going to do. They just want to have their 10 grand in cash on them or whatever it is, because they like to flash 10 grand in cash. Let's just be honest about it. And like I said, I'm going to do a more in-depth show on this, because it's fascinating. The way that this is, a lot of times truck drivers will carry large amounts of cash. Matter of fact, I used to, one of the guys that used to be on my team, now this is back when 3 grand was a lot of money, that was a month's salary for a lot of people. He used to carry 3 grand in cash on him at all times, just in case he had to get bailed out. He figured that anything that he got put into jail for, 3 grand in cash would get him out. Right. Yeah. So,
I've seen a funny, I think it was a Domino's truck that came through town. It hadn't been that long ago now, month or so, and I thought it was funny. Like on the back, it said something to the effect, and this was like the people who made the trailer, like Domino's, obviously, with font and everything, put it on there, but it says something to the effect of, the kind of dough our drivers carry, you can't spend, or something like that. It was basically that their drivers don't carry cash, right?
Right.
I thought that was pretty funny.
That's pretty funny. But yeah, so I had a crew guy that always carried enough in bail. We have Don Parker I've seen him in chat a few times. He says this happened to a friend of mine. He was traveling to buy a car and got pulled over by a state patrol officer, and they confiscated his cash. Yeah, it's in theory, it's part of the war on drugs, but the reality is that it's just a cash grab, and it's really hard to get it back. I mean, just really, really hard. Josie says, "Can you travel with gold though?" Yeah, I'm sure you can. But again, it is the same as I think it's I think you'd run into kind of the same problem. And Josie says she got into big trouble once because she was going to buy a bike, and back then there was no easier way than driving across the border and pay cash. Yeah, and you probably didn't declare your cash, did you? Don Parker says it took over a year to get it back. That's right. Yeah. So, yeah.
There's so many bad actors, It's like I get it. Like, but
yeah. Well, I think our government agencies are largely out of control, right? Like, I'm not one of those people that honestly believes they're all out to get us, but at some level, I think the individual agents are out to get us, and I think that the individual supervisors of those agencies are out to get people, and if they can, if culling, $60K in illegitimate airport confiscations gets them a promotion, they're perfectly willing to trample all over your rights to get that extra $2,000 a year or whatever it is.
Octavius has an interesting point.
Yeah, this is actually really good too. They count on this. Most of the people who travel with cash can't afford to hire a lawyer and punish the department for cash grabs. Hence, how they ruthlessly abuse it. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Or they're doing nefarious things where they don't want to hire a lawyer and push it.
And Joe Mobley, who, by the way, Joe Mobley is an ex-Fed, guys. Just so you know, he's on our side now, but he used to be a Fed. Cash confiscation is total BS. You can show them your employer depositing it into your account and then you withdrawing it, and they will still take it. Yes, that's correct. Again, you guys are blowing my you guys are getting a preview of what an interesting episode this will be when we actually launch into it. It's really bad right now that our government is really trying to grab cash from its citizens, but it's not. The interesting thing is that it's so hard to get that money back, and we're not really told what the money is used for. It's very difficult to track what the government's doing with it. Worse is why. Why are they doing it? That's the real problem I have, is why are they doing this? Because at the end of the day, it's your money, man. You earned it, or you sold something and that was valuable to you and obviously to somebody else. That's right. Joe Mobley is correct. They do say that cash is drug paraphernalia. Believe that? Believe it or not, that's what they say. That's what they say, guys. 100%. They really do believe that. It is, in fact, totally insane. It is totally nuts. So, Joe, if you'd like to come up, I'm sure Mr. Boulay will send you the link and you can come up and chat for a few minutes. But it is a subject of a future show of mine. I was shocked at how often it happens, where it happens. Cruise ships, which is where I would expect to have a bunch of crack cash, right? Yeah. Like I would honestly expect to carry a bunch of cash.
By the way, hope you're feeling better, Joe.
Yeah, Joe, I hope you're okay, man. I forgot about that. Stand by 1 second, guys. Just give me 1 sec.
No, we're not going to give him a second, right? He's supposed to be wall-to-wall talking on this show. This is not what we fucking pay for, Grid. Like, we don't pay for your silence here. We pay for your continued bloviation and opining on whatever silly subjects that you may come up with. Yeah, what gets me about the whole cash thing is if it's...
I'll get off the line.
It's the same thing as most. If like Joe was bringing up, like if it's provable, if it's, when it's pretty obvious that nothing nefarious is going on, like, and I hear about those situations. It definitely happens. Like that's total bullshit.
Yeah. Guys, I have to actually drop off. I have a dinner reservation. My wife just reminded me. We're going to have to continue this as time goes on. I'm sorry, Joe, I wanted you to come up, but unfortunately, I have a dinner reservation. I forgot that I'm on East Coast time. I thought I had an entire 2 hours to go, but I do not. I am currently on East Coast time, and so therefore I must go eat dinner. Welcome, Raging Tomato. Welcome to everyone that has come in and come in late. However, I do have to go, and I'll be back tomorrow night. Well, not tomorrow night. I'll be back Wednesday night at our normally scheduled channel. And you guys have a great rest of your day, and really enjoy having you guys on and around me. So you guys have a great night. Clover, always glad to have you on the show.
Yep.
And
enjoy dinner, man.
All right. You guys have a great evening. Talk to you later. Signing off. Going away. And end again.